Toxic boss fired me publicly. My patent destroyed his company. The spotlight wasn't real, but I could feel its heat on my skin. 200 pairs of eyes were fixed on me. The air in the conference room, usually a cool, controlled 68 degrees, felt thick and suffocating. At the head of the polished mahogany table stood Marcus Thorne, CEO of Innovate Dynamics, his face a mask of performative disappointment. "Alexandra," he began, his voice dripping with false sincerity that made my stomach turn. "We value teamwork above all else here. It's the cornerstone of our success, and lately, you haven't been a team player." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. For 3 weeks, I had pushed back. I had argued, pleaded, and presented data during late-night meetings, all to no avail. My project, codenamed Project Helios, was a revolutionary energy-saving algorithm for data centers. My algorithm, I had spent countless sleepless nights perfecting it, building it from the ground up on my personal time. But Marcus wanted to launch it early. To do that, he proposed bypassing several critical safety protocols. Protocols I had personally designed to prevent overheating and catastrophic system failure. "Your persistent negativity regarding the Helios launch timeline has become a bottleneck," he continued, gesturing grandly to the silent executives flanking him. "You've created an atmosphere of doubt. You've questioned my leadership. And here at Innovate Dynamics, we are a unified front." My voice was quiet but steady when I replied. "I questioned a launch strategy that skips 27% of the mandated safety simulations. The data shows a clear and present risk of cascading failure." A cruel smirk played on Marcus's lips. He saw my precision not as a strength, but as a weakness to be exploited. "There you go again, with the numbers, the data. What you lack, Alexandra, is vision. Faith in the company. Faith in me." He paused for dramatic effect, letting the silence hang heavy in the air. "Your employment with Innovate Dynamics is terminated, effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the room. My closest colleague, Sarah, looked at me with wide, horrified eyes. No one else moved. No one spoke. They just stared, a silent audience to my professional execution. "Security will escort you to your desk to collect your personal belongings. You will then be escorted from the building." He said it so casually, as if he were ordering lunch. The walk from the conference room to my desk was the longest one of my life. 2 stone-faced security guards, men I'd shared coffee with just that morning, trailed me like I was a criminal. Every head in the open plan office turned to watch. I could feel their pity, their fear, their relief that it wasn't them. I kept my chin high, my movements deliberate. I packed my small box with a framed photo, a stress ball, and my favorite mug. I left behind the company awards, the framed certificates, the remnants of a career I had poured my soul into for 6 years. As I was walked toward the elevator, Marcus's voice boomed from his office, already on a call. "Yes, Helios is back on the fast track. My vision for the project is finally unimpeded." My vision, my project. The elevator doors slid shut, and as the lobby floor lit up, a single, cold thought solidified in my mind. He thought he had taken everything from me. He had no idea that I had taken the one thing that truly mattered. The silence of my small apartment was deafening after the sterile hum of the office. The box of my professional life sat on the kitchen counter, looking pathetic and small. Humiliation burned hot in my chest, a bitter, coppery taste in my mouth. For an hour, I just sat on my sofa, staring at a blank wall, replaying the scene over and over. The smug look on Marcus's face, the averted eyes of my colleagues. The final metallic click of the lobby door locking behind me. Then, the fire in my chest cooled into something harder, something like steel. They could take my job, my keycard, my company email, but they couldn't take what was in my head. I walked over to my laptop and opened it. My fingers flew across the keyboard, not to a job search website or a social media page where I could vent, but to a government portal. The website was bland, gray, and filled with tiny text. The United States Patent and Trademark Office. I logged in, my heart starting to pound again, but this time with adrenaline, not fear. After navigating through two-factor authentication, I landed on my personal dashboard. There it was, one pending application. Application number 7843B. A system and method for dynamic thermal load balancing in high-density computing environments. It was a dry, technical title, but it was my masterpiece. It was Project Helios, the real Project Helios, the safe, efficient, and complete version for the last 9 months. While I was building the algorithm for Innovate Dynamics, I was also meticulously documenting every line of code, every unique process, every single innovative leap that I made on my own time, on my own equipment. I had hired a patent lawyer with the last of my savings from a previous bonus, working with her on weekends and late at night. We filed the provisional patent application exactly 4 months ago. Marcus had always been sloppy with intellectual property. He believed anything an employee thought of, even in the shower, belonged to the company. He'd once boasted at a company all hands that, "Your brains are company assets." That arrogance was about to be his downfall. My lawyer had assured me that work done independently without use of company resources was mine and mine alone. I had been careful using a personal laptop and a separate, private server for all my developmental work on the core safety protocols. The status on the portal read, "Under examination." It wasn't approved yet. My protection wasn't guaranteed. It was a race Marcus would undoubtedly push forward, trying to launch his stripped-down, dangerous version of my tech. He'd slap the company's name on it and claim it as his brilliant innovation. The world would see him as a genius. But I had the application. I had the timestamp documentation, the detailed schematics, the independent correspondence with my attorney. I had the truth, locked away in a government database. I closed the laptop, the quiet hum of its fan the only sound in the room. The shock and shame of being fired began to recede, replaced by a cold, sharp resolve. This wasn't an ending, it was the beginning of a war. And I had just secretly armed myself with a nuclear weapon. The next few weeks were a blur of anxiety and frantic activity. I lived like a hermit, surviving on coffee and cheap takeout, channeling all my energy into two things: finding a temporary job to pay my bills and meticulously preparing for the storm I knew was coming. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from former colleagues. Some offered genuine sympathy, others were transparently fishing for gossip. I gave them nothing. The less anyone knew, the better. Then about a month after my firing, it happened. Sarah, my one true friend from the office, sent me a link with a single word: unbelievable. The link was to a major tech industry magazine. The headline blared across the top of the page in a bold, sans serif font. Innovate Dynamics unveils Helios Core, poised to revolutionize data center efficiency. My blood ran cold. I clicked the link. There he was, a glossy, professionally shot photo of Marcus Thorne, smiling his predator's smile, arms crossed confidently. The article was a masterpiece of corporate propaganda. It painted Marcus as a visionary, a maverick who had single-handedly conceived and driven the Helios project from a mere concept to a market-ready reality. He was quoted extensively. "Helios Core is the result of our relentless pursuit of innovation," he said. "It was a personal passion project of mine, born from a desire to create a greener, more sustainable tech footprint for the future." Personal passion project. The lie was so brazen it almost took my breath away. He went on to describe the technology, my technology, using my phrases and my analogies, but with a dangerous twist. He bragged about its aggressive performance, its ability to push servers to their absolute limits for maximum output. He called it efficiency without compromise. I knew what that meant. It meant efficiency without the safety protocols. It was a ticking time bomb packaged in a press release. The article mentioned a launch date just 6 weeks away. They were partnering with a massive cloud services provider, a company called OmniCloud. The deal was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. My work, my stolen work, was about to make him a legend. I scrolled down and saw the comments section filled with praise from industry sycophants. Incredible! A true game changer! Marcus Thorne does it again! Each comment was like a small jab to the ribs. The world was celebrating a thief, and I was an unemployed engineer eating instant noodles in a dark apartment. That night, I received an official-looking letter. It was from Innovate Dynamics legal department. It was a heavy-handed, threatening cease and desist letter. It warned me that all work I had done, including anything related to thermal management systems, was the exclusive property of the company, and that any attempt to replicate or use that knowledge would be met with swift and severe legal action. They were trying to scare me. They were building a wall around my own invention. Marcus wasn't just stealing my work, he was trying to legally silence me so I could never claim it. He thought I was broken and powerless. He was about to find out how wrong he was. The letter wasn't a threat. It was a declaration of his own fear. He knew, somewhere deep down, that I was the true creator, and he was trying to silence me before I could prove it. The lawyer's letter galvanized me. Fear was replaced by pure, unadulterated focus. The race was on. Marcus had a 6-week head start in the court of public opinion, but I was in a different race, a marathon through the halls of bureaucracy. My days fell into a grueling rhythm. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., brew a pot of coffee that could dissolve steel, and open my laptop. The patent office had sent what they called an office action. It was a formal request for clarification and additional evidence. The patent examiner, a thorough and meticulous individual, had questions. He wanted more data on the algorithm's performance under extreme stress, further proof of its novelty compared to existing technologies, and detailed logs of its development process. This was my moment to build an ironclad case. For 2 straight weeks, I barely slept. I converted my living room into a command center. Whiteboards were covered in complex equations and flowcharts. I unearthed every digital artifact of my work. Old code repositories on my personal server, date-stamped simulation results, and my own detailed digital notebooks that chronicled every breakthrough and every failure. I compiled gigabytes of data into a clear, concise, and undeniable narrative. This wasn't just code. This was the story of creation, and I was its sole author. I spent one entire weekend drafting a 170-page response to the examiner. I detailed how my system used a predictive machine learning model to anticipate thermal spikes, something no other commercial system did. I included the simulation data that showed exactly why Marcus's decision to remove the safety buffers would lead to system failure within, on average, 720 hours of continuous operation. I wasn't just proving my invention worked. I was proving his version was a catastrophe waiting to happen. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Elena, reviewed every page. "This is more than a response, Alexandra," she said during a late-night video call, her face illuminated by her monitor. "This is a damn manifesto. It's airtight." With a trembling hand, I digitally signed the final document and clicked Submit. The upload bar crawled across the screen for what felt like an eternity. When it was done, a simple message appeared. "Response received," and then I waited. The silence was the hardest part. Every day, the launch of Helios Core grew closer. Tech blogs were buzzing with anticipation. OmniCloud was running commercials hyping their new, ultra-efficient servers powered by Helios Core. Marcus was on the cover of another magazine. He was living my dream while I was living on credit cards and dwindling hope. 3 weeks after I submitted my response, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line was deceptively simple. Notice of allowance. My hands shook as I opened it. The formal language of the United States Patent and Trademark Office swam before my eyes. But a few key phrases leaped out. "All claims have been found allowable. The invention as claimed is patentable. Official patent number will be issued upon payment of fees." I read it once, then twice. A slow smile spread across my face. I leaned back in my chair, the exhaustion of the past months washing over me, replaced by a profound, exhilarating sense of power. The bomb was armed. The patent was granted. Marcus Thorne was celebrating his victory, completely unaware that his entire empire was about to be vaporized. The day Helios Core launched was a massive media event. Marcus hosted a live-streamed keynote from a dazzling stage in Silicon Valley. He stood there in his signature black turtleneck, a triumphant god of innovation, speaking about his creation to a global audience of millions. I watched it all from my apartment, a bowl of popcorn in my lap, a strange calm settling over me. "With Helios Core," he declared, his arms outstretched, "we are not just entering the future, we are building it." The applause was thunderous. The stock for Innovate Dynamics soared by 15% in after-hours trading. OmniCloud servers powered by the new tech went live at noon. Everything was going exactly according to his plan. My plan, however, began at 12:01 p.m. My lawyer, Elena, sent a single, devastating email. It was addressed to the entire board of directors at Innovate Dynamics and the entire legal team at OmniCloud. The subject line was simple: urgent, cease and desist regarding U.S. patent number 11,835,217. Attached was a copy of my newly issued patent and a detailed letter explaining that their flagship product, Helios Core, was a direct and willful infringement of my intellectual property. The letter outlined every specific claim they were violating and politely informed them that every second their systems remained online, they were accruing massive financial liability for damages. Simultaneously, I executed the second part of my plan. I had given an exclusive interview, under embargo, to a well-respected investigative tech journalist known for her deep dives into corporate malfeasance. At 12:30 p.m., her story went live. The headline was explosive: "The power behind Helios. How Innovate Dynamics' new tech was stolen from the engineer they publicly fired." The article was a brutal, meticulous takedown. It included my side of the story, excerpts from Marcus's threatening legal letter to me, and most damningly, a link to my official published patent. The journalist had even found anonymous sources within Innovate Dynamics who confirmed I had repeatedly warned management about the dangers of the stripped-down version. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. The industry, which had been singing Marcus's praises just an hour earlier, went into a collective shock. Tech forums and social media exploded. My story was everywhere. The narrative flipped in the blink of an eye. Marcus wasn't a visionary, he was a thief. Innovate Dynamics wasn't an innovator, it was a fraud. By 3 p.m., OmniCloud, facing a public relations nightmare and a terrifyingly expensive lawsuit, shut down all servers running Helios Core. Their system status page glowed with a single humiliating word: outage. By 4:30 p.m., Innovate Dynamics' stock had not just fallen, it had plummeted. It lost over 40% of its value in a matter of hours, erasing billions of dollars in market capitalization. I received a frantic, sputtering voicemail from Marcus. It was a string of threats and panicked accusations. I deleted it without a second thought. Later, I got a call from the chairman of the board of Innovate Dynamics. His voice was grim. He didn't apologize, he just asked what it would take to make this go away. I smiled. "You can't afford it," I said, and hung up the phone. The tables hadn't just turned. I had taken the whole table and flipped it over on top of them. The fallout was a corporate drama for the ages. The board of directors at Innovate Dynamics moved swiftly to stop the bleeding. Within 24 hours, they issued a public statement. Marcus Thorne was fired, effective immediately, for a catastrophic failure of professional ethics and leadership. He was publicly disgraced, his carefully crafted legacy shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The man who had fired me in a room of 200 people was now a pariah in the industry he once ruled. Innovate Dynamics and OmniCloud, desperate to avoid a protracted and humiliating court battle they knew they would lose, came to the negotiating table. My lawyer, Elena, was a shock. We didn't settle for a small sum. We didn't settle for a licensing deal that would let them off easy. The settlement was historic. I received a public formal apology from both companies. I was paid a 9-figure sum for damages and the initial infringement. But that wasn't the best part. The most important clause of the agreement was that I retained full and sole ownership of my patent. Innovate Dynamics was forced to scrap Helios core entirely. My invention, my true, safe version, was now the only viable path forward. Overnight, I went from an unemployed engineer to the holder of the new gold standard in data center technology. I founded my own company, which I named Athena Algorithms. The name felt right. In the first 6 months, I was flooded with offers. Tech giants, former competitors of Innovate Dynamics, even governments, all wanted to license my patented technology. They weren't just buying an algorithm, they were buying safety, stability, and the genius of the real creator. My first major client was, ironically, OmniCloud. Their executives, humbled and desperate, came to my new office, a sleek, big, minimalist space overlooking the city skyline, a world away from my cramped apartment. They agreed to my terms without argument. Today, my technology powers over 30% of the world's major data centers. I lead a team of brilliant engineers, people I've handpicked, who are valued for their integrity as much as their talent. We work in an environment built on respect, not fear. I never forgot the feeling of being publicly humiliated, and I swore I would never let anyone on my team feel that way. Sometimes, when I'm looking out my office window, I think about that conference room. I think about Marcus's smug face and the silence of my former colleagues. He thought firing me was the end of the story, but he was just the villain in my first chapter. My humiliation was temporary, but the patent is forever. My name is on it. And in the end, my work didn't just speak for itself. It spoke volumes, and the entire industry had no choice but to listen. My story proves that even when you feel completely powerless, the truth and your own hard work are the most powerful assets you have. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'd love to know more about you, my viewers. In the comments below, let me know what city you're watching from and how old you are. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.